You will be a failure, until you impress the subconscious with the conviction you are a success. This is done by making an affirmation which clicks. Unlike a lot of people, I don't need the affirmation or anything. I don't set out to win awards. I don't think any musician does, but when you receive an award, it's an affirmation. It means that people appreciate what you do. Every award I have received is a confirmation of something I have done, and that motivates me to push a little harder. The emancipation of women is practically the greatest egoistic movement of the 19th century, and the most intense affirmation of the right of the self that history has yet seen. Everything comes out in blues music: joy, pain, struggle. Blues is affirmation with absolute elegance. It's about a man and a woman. So the pain and the struggle in the blues is that universal pain that comes from having your heart broken. Most blues songs are not about social statements. Choosing one's leaders is an affirmation that the person making the choice has inherent worth. I never want to lose touch with reality. I won't push $100 candles just because. I realized that I could create a hub of positivity and affirmation. The more we engage with others, the more we find people with whom we do not share the values and truths that we consider so fundamental. In virtual places, by contrast, we are able to select the precise individuals with whom we associate to ensure that we obtain the affirmation we require. Man is important in one sense only. He was made in the image of God, that is his importance. He is not important for his body, ego, or personality. His constant affirmation of ego consciousness is the source of all his problems. Practice rather than preach. Make of your life an affirmation, defined by your ideals, not the negation of others. Dare to the level of your capability, then go beyond to a higher level. Christianity and Judaism are united above all in their common affirmation and implementation of the moral teaching of the Hebrew Bible, or Old Testament, and the traditions of interpretation of that teaching. I always wanted to be a Broadway girl, but once I got Tony nominated, it really messed with me, because it was like, yes, I'm getting this affirmation that you're right where you're supposed to be, but there was still this voice saying, you're not good enough. It's a career that's enticing because you go on stage, for example, and people clap. You get that affirmation, but you can't go into acting for that because it's really your own self-belief that's going to get you through. For me, diverse beauty is an affirmation of every single person in his or her own skin. I don't set out to win awards. I don't think any musician does, but when you receive an award, it's an affirmation. It means that people appreciate what you do. When Landon Carter, a Virginia plantation owner, read the Declaration of Independence 2 days after it was issued, he wondered whether its ringing affirmation of equality meant that slaves must be freed. If so, he confided to his diary, you must send them out of the country, or they must steal for their support. We engage in the public institutions of work and school and club and team, because it is there that we find meaning and purpose. But sometimes when we engage, we find confrontation, not affirmation. A lot of the themes that I write about are an affirmation of our existence on Earth and making people feel like they are not alone, and making them feel like it is okay to be a little bit insane. That has always been sort of my credo in life. Life is an affirmation, not a defamation. Life means living. Life means taking that one tiny or giant leap beyond what you know you can do, or simply beyond what you know. It is in these moments that we live. A home should be an intimate autobiography of the things that you like. One of the things I'm so keen on expressing is that, if you don't do it for yourself, if you're always seeking affirmation from outside, you'll never have a home. It'll just be a house. The point of my work is to show that culture and education aren't simply hobbies or minor influences. They are hugely important in the affirmation of differences between groups and social classes and in the reproduction of those differences. The mysteries of faith are degraded if they are made into an object of affirmation and negation, when in reality they should be an object of contemplation. Being an actor somehow can be a perverse extension of that feeling we generally all have as children, that feeling of wanting to please. Of course you're looking for affirmation, encouragement. Belief is not restricted to a brief affirmation based on imitation, rather, it has degrees and stages of development. It is like a seed growing into a fully grown, fruit-bearing tree, like the sun's image in a mirror or in a drop of water to its images on the sea's surface and to the sun itself. I know what it's like to feel that fear and the need of affirmation and appreciation. To build confidence in yourself is the toughest thing. For me, books were my source of affirmation. Alice Walker, Audre Lorde, it was these authors who wrote about their experiences. It was this weird thing where I was censored in terms of what I could watch but not in terms of what I could read. Black Lives Matter is really an affirmation for our people. It's a love note for our people, but it's also a demand. We know that the system was not designed for justice for us. Food sovereignty is an affirmation of who we are as indigenous peoples in a way, one of the most sure-footed ways, to restore our relationship with the world around us. As hard as it is, owning who you are and knowing what you want is the only sure path to affirmation. I want women to know they can get out of any situation if they return to their core source of strength, themselves. That the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible a proposition, and implies no more contradiction, than the affirmation, that it will rise. In divine unity in the affirmation of it, divine beauty and dominical perfection become apparent. If there was no unity, that pre-eternal treasury would remain hidden. I've always looked for my affirmation through my peers, the people I race against, and within my team. I'm not the type to demand affirmation or to worry that I'll be forgotten. I'm more the type to dare the world to forget me. As a Westerner, the child of civil rights and anti-war activists, I embraced Islam not in abandonment of my core values, drawn almost entirely from the progressive tradition, but as an affirmation of them. Trump's Twitter flood of late-night mendacity is an unhindered celebration of fragile manhood, a ceaseless summons to the millions for affirmation, a proclamation to vulnerable men across the land that endless preening and stroking is a normal and imitable way of life. People go into politics because they want the affirmation, and they want the applause. Success is a process, a quality of mind and way of being, an outgoing affirmation of life. Narcissists, people with an inflated self-concept and a strong sense of uniqueness and superiority, seek attention and affirmation on Facebook. I don't think quotas are necessarily an evil. I think when we look at industry in general back to the 60s and the 50s, the way more diverse people like my dad and mom's generation were able to break into industry was because of affirmation action, because of quotas. If you want your dream more than you have to have people's affirmation, that's how you break through your border bullies. Well, for one thing, in the tradition of Zen that I've practiced, there is no prayerful worship and there is no affirmation of a deity. Americans are fascinated by their own love of shopping. This does not make them unique, it's just that they have more to buy than most other people on the planet. And it's also an affirmation of faith in their country. My favorite affirmation when I feel stuck or out of sorts is, whatever I need is already here, and it is all for my highest good. Jot this down and post it conspicuously throughout your home, on the dashboard of your car, at your office, on your microwave oven, and even in front of your toilets. Donald's need for affirmation is so great that he doesn't seem to notice that the largest group of his supporters are people he wouldn't condescend to be seen with outside of a rally. Every sentence I utter must be understood not as an affirmation, but as a question. We must look to an open, tolerant, inclusive England, which embraces the values of a Britain that still leads the world in terms of an open democracy, as well as an understanding of the needs for responsibilities and obligations to run alongside the affirmation of individual rights. My story is really an affirmation of my strength and my luck. To live with a great artist like Ted Hughes or Mick Jagger is a very, very destructive role for a woman trying to be herself. In fact, it can't be done. However much some journalists may criticize me, I know that I look, feel, and behave several decades younger than my actual age, and much of that is because I believe you are what you think you are. This is called positive affirmation, and it's a really strong tool. I've always felt like I belonged, and you need affirmation every now and then. To give someone a blessing is the most significant affirmation we can offer. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.